Hey, welcome everybody to the EdListen podcast. This is episode 50. We're going to be talking about our one-to-one and basically getting back behind the mic. We've been out of it for a while. And I am here with Fred.
Hey, BJ. Welcome back.
Hey.
It's been a
And
while.
it has. I'm doing this a little bit different. I get rid of my old rig and we're just going to do this via Hangout, so hopefully it works and it'll be a YouTube channel. But okay, so we've done a lot.
A lot. In a matter of what? 2 months, 3 months, 2.5 months.
2 months. So I think the last time we were on was nearing the end of school,
Right.
and we had planned out all our one-to-one stuff. And the reason why we haven't got back into the podcast is mostly because, well, we've been rolling out that one-to-one stuff.
Yes, we have.
So this summer we went through and we ordered 450 Chromebooks for the students, and those arrived very quickly, and we got them through the lease, and it worked out really well with the fair market value lease, and we got them. What I did never anticipated, and poor Connor, our desktop support guy, is while the Chromebooks are very easy to set up, setting up 450 of these, and you'll find out we have even more,
Yeah.
takes a lot of time. Even if you're just spending a few seconds on each one, it takes a lot of time, and it's very mundane.
Yeah, and I
So-
remember when Connor reached 400 on that, when he was setting up the 400th one. He wasn't, he wasn't jumping for joy at that point at all.
Yeah, you could certainly see that we were kind of, Connor and I, mostly Connor, just starting to get a little glaze in our eyes as we're going through these things.
Drool coming out of his mouth, yeah.
Yeah, but out of 450, we only had one that had some dead pixels in the screen that we had to send back for warranty. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I know, Fred, you were out for the summer, so I'm going to just talk about this first part. Then
Go ahead.
we'll get you into it. So we have all the Chromebooks, and what we found out with the ordering of them, we wound up going with the Acer 720s with 4 gigs of RAM. A great machine. We're still really happy with them. And while CDW, the vendor I used, had all the Chromebooks in stock, a lot of vendors were back ordered on the bags. So the bags were the hardest thing to get because those things were the ones that were on back order constantly. Well, we get them going, and then the principal says, okay, I think it's just a couple weeks before school's supposed to start, and says, I want to give everyone to my teacher, too. We got to order more.
Surprise, surprise, surprise. Yeah.
And it really wasn't that bad of a deal because we had we had intended to buy another lab of iPads, which we had chosen not to. So we had some money in our budget for this, and I bought another 50. So we have a total of 500 Chromebooks. The Chromebooks for the staff arrived the day we had our in-service that we were handing them out. So I wound up handing out some of the student ones. And then their bags were back-ordered forever and ordered wrong, and bags were my issue. But we rolled out to the staff on opening day. We gave them all a Chromebook. We got them up and going, and that rolled out quite well. And I think that's, Fred, kind of where you stepped in during that process because I think you were at that first in-service.
Yeah, I was having cold sweats and waking up 2 weeks before we started school about what to expect and anticipate. But as we went through the process, it seemed to work out fairly well. We had to issue a PARA, obviously, with the Chromebook, and I'll let you elaborate on that as well. But, all in all, for a 2-month process, it went pretty seamless, and I'm sure you'd agree. I mean,
yeah, it was really good. I mean, Hapara, I would not want to do this launch without Hapara or Google Classroom or G-Class folders. One of those organizational structures. I think there's another one out there by Promevo. They also have one too to give everybody a listen on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But and we went with Hopara. I don't regret it. I think you did the initial training on that at that in-service.
which went pretty seamlessly. The only thing is just making sure that the teachers understand all of the tabs and as far as what they can do as far as managing their classroom. I think at first they think it's a little bit big brotherish until they try the tool and then realize they have more control than they initially had before.
Yeah, it certainly really helped. I almost think that at that initial one, less is more, though. We need to,
Right.
because you did an overview, which was cool, but we only had like an hour,
Right.
and so, but since then you've gone around to help all the teachers out with this,
Right.
and we have some really good adoption of it.
Right. And I told you, as I told you, my biggest surprise is that the senior teachers are the ones that are really seeing the effectiveness of the use of the tool in their classrooms and the deployment of their assignments. And other teachers are following suit, of course, but when you see that kind of an example, you realize that this is an effective movement. The one-to-one initiative is very effective, and Apara is a very effective tool with the Chromebook.
Yeah. I'm going to go back. The other cool thing that happened at that in-service is our principal got in on this one. And he really stepped in big time this year and said, okay, the front office workflow is going to Google Apps. And that first day, I mean, he's a brand new user to it too. I
Right.
remember talking with him just a week before we were supposed to launch this, and he's trying to come up with an assignment. And he did a really cool culture assignment with the staff that one day with their Chromebooks. They opened them up, they logged in, and he had them going around to all the classrooms and taking photos using the Chromebooks and coming
Right.
back and
Yep.
inserting.
And through the hallways and reporting on the culture of our school, which I thought was a very effective assignment for all the teachers and a great hands-on experience, what they could do with the Chromebook.
Yeah. And great teachable moments, like you can take a bunch of pictures, but you can only insert one of them at a time.
Right.
So and this has been a process about learning, and I think that's
Right.
one of the things that the staff has been very, kind to the IT department, realizing we're in a learning process too. I mean, we've
Exactly.
never had 500 devices on this network.
Pretty significant deployment, I would say, because you've deployed before, but I mean, what was the range scale compared to what you did
Well,
before?
I mean, the last one was 30 a class, and up to, I mean, I was there 3 years, so we had like 75 devices at one, and I think the other one was about 100.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a different setup, but it was big. It would rolled out. So I think the staff went well. It was nice that they got the Chromebooks first. I think that was a really good positive thing to do.
Yeah, and I think they really, really got a lot out of that, not only from an appreciation standpoint, but they had felt more comfortable that they had the tool before the student to feel, hey, I'm comfortable with this, and you're not just bringing a foreign tool into the classroom.
Yeah, I think having the lab the end of all through last year was a good thing. The Chromebook lab then, teachers having it, and what's really nice is now we see teachers are bringing it to the staff meetings and all these things, so we know the teachers have access to things. So it's even changed the dynamic of some of the staff meetings too.
Well, I've seen a lot of teachers say, you know what, I like this a lot. I like this Chromebook a lot. In fact, I think the funny part was when we were going through the whole process. I mean, just to back up a little bit, BJ's idea was to make sure that we got them time to play with this and understand. And I, as an integrationist, was training them before the initiative started from the previous spring of the school semester. And he had a lab card of about, what was it, 15 of Chromebooks, where I would train with them after school on a one-day session, as well as saying, hey, if you have an in-service, take a Chromebook with you. And I think that really made a big difference when we came to the new school year because it wasn't so foreign to them. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we also even let them take home some. So some of them had
over the summer. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a big key. And I think that the teachers that took advantage of that were one step ahead of the game.
Sure.
For sure. And, I mean, right now I think we could switch over live if it wasn't for our Power School SIS program and the grade book still requiring. We're waiting on that one to be Chromebook compatible, but uh, that's, I mean, I see them being used
Hmm.
by the staff.
Now, just to let our listeners know, BJ, why there were tools out there besides Hapara, but what was our key decision for using it?
Well, we used it the previous school had already been using it last year.
Hmm.
We went with Hapara um, mostly because of its, I don't want to say just its popularity, but more of the fact that they have become a standard.
Hmm.
They are not the free one, and Google Classroom had just launched. We had to make
Right.
this decision
Right.
before we knew what was going on with
And
Google
it wasn't
Classroom.
an easy one either, but.
No, and I honestly, I've played with Google Classroom.
Hmm.
It has some merit. I'm not totally sold on it being the ideal tool that it was meant to be.
Hmm.
I don't like its workflow. I don't think it encourages. Um, yeah, I don't think it encourages collaboration in the same way
Hmm.
that Hapara does.
Sure. Sure. And I've heard the same thing, that teachers really enjoy the collaboration and the deployment of the assignments with Hapara. Also, it does have the capability to work with PowerSchool, right? So, um,
Yeah, we got our. That was where our issue was in with Hapara was we signed up to have it sync with PowerSchool, so all the users and all the classes get synced. And I think we were in a beta program and didn't know it. I almost
exactly.
think we might have been one of the first schools to actually
Oh
do
yeah.
this,
Yeah.
because that was, out of this whole process, that sync with PowerSchool was our growing pains, and where
Right.
teachers really had to bear with us as we were going through the learning process. The Chromebooks themselves worked great. There's
Seamlessly. Seamlessly.
jumped in, and certainly when Hapara wasn't syncing correctly, it with PowerSchool, teachers noted.
It was a little tense. A little tense as an integrationist to go in their classrooms and say, "How's the new tool?" But at the same time, we were also, remember, we were doing the map assessment testing with the NWA initiative for the Common Core, preparing them for the SBAC. So that was also going on at the same time, which made it even more stressful. But again, with the Chromebooks, we had testing. BG and I had two large groups, with as well as Connor having a group. And what do you think of the testing? How we did? I mean,
I think I think the testing went well. I mean, I could not believe how, being in tech, you always expect something going wrong,
of course.
and when it goes smoothly, you're like, okay, what went wrong? And I don't know about it.
You're waiting for a shoe to drop or something to fall out of the sky, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
felt the same way, but really it was seamless. Maybe a few late students that we just had to tweak on the software. Software interface was very very easy to work with for teachers. Teachers got to see a little bit of it, and we're going to train them later for the next testing session in the winter. But the reporting came in nice and clean. We had all this data, and I got to tell you, BJ, when I went around to actually show them how to get to the data, as soon as they got the paperwork, they wouldn't listen. They wouldn't even talk to me. They were just buried, and their eyes were buried into the paperwork because they wanted to see, what was the scores and what was this and where could I find the trends.
Oh,
So it looks like this initiative is really going to take off.
yeah. As a parent, I got my the te- my daughter's teacher
Hmm.
gave us that, and it was really great information for there too. So, but in terms of the technology behind it, I mean, we have wireless, we have the Chromebooks, we have a decent amount of bandwidth going out. It's one thing we made sure is that our infrastructure was in place.
Yeah, that was a big worry in the summer before the initiative.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I did learn very quickly that with the Chromebooks, my wireless, one of the best things to do is to, oh, there's my volume, set up a 5 gigahertz. Uh, my phone's ringing and it's just throwing me off. Okay, do not disturb is
There we go.
on is 401, so 401.
There you go.
There you go. Straight to the
I'll bring you back. 5 megahertz. Back to 5 megahertz.
5 megahertz. Thanks. Yeah. So what I found out with the Chromebooks, there's when you set up a wireless, there's actually 2 uh, gigahertz things that it could connect at. Think about like your cellular, the wireless phones They used to have like the 2.4, now that they're 5 gigahertz too.
Mhm.
Well, there's a lot of traffic on that 2.4 gigahertz network, phones, other things, and it's a lot smaller.
Mhm.
Any older wireless can only connect to it that way too. Well, the Chromebooks have the ability to connect at 5 gigahertz.
Right.
And I know last year with our little mobile lab one, we did have connection issues, and I was fighting it back and forth.
Mhm.
I switched to that 5 gigahertz, and as long as students stay on that correct uh, SSID, which is another issue, but
Mhm.
as long as they're staying on the correct SSID for the one-to-one, the connection issues have gone down considerably, and we're seeing just actual usage. So that was something that I would definitely highlight.
Well, definitely in that. Another concern that we had, of course, was breakage and also them charging in the building because we did not have the capability to have the outlets and the electrical capacity to have all these students just suddenly charge all their Chromes when they came to school. And last year, BJ and I were on a previous podcast with a gentleman who was an integrationist in Ohio, I believe it was Cleveland, Ohio, at St. Joe's School. And we were fishing for ideas because obviously we were ready to get started with this initiative. They had just finished it, and he said that a slogan he had come up with, which was I'd love to take credit for, but I can't, is when you're at home, charge your phone, charge your Chrome. And we basically had mentioned that at the faculty meetings and hoping it would take. And eventually, we actually had the student council at our school send out flyers to notify the students and get the message out. And quite frankly, in my experience, and Connor's I'm sure as well as yours, how much really have we seen students plugging in to charge when they come into the building for school?
Yeah, no, I've seen it occasionally,
A little
and
bit, but I mean, not
trying
the
to get
extent
the
we were worried about. But
yeah. I mean, Connor and I were talking about this. The Chromebooks themselves
hmm
last a long time, and
they
as
do.
long as the students don't realize that they can turn off the brightness on the backlit screen, it's actually lasting even longer.
Right.
They charge really quickly.
Yeah, 1 hour gives you 8 hour of power. So.
Yeah. We did is we set up 2 charging stations. There's one in our library, and there's going to be one in our cafeteria, which hosts all of our study halls.
hmm
So those are going to probably help out really well.
hmm
So in terms of charging, I think it's pretty good. I haven't really got to talk to the teachers.
hmm
They had their learning meetings, personal learning community meetings,
hmm
and the topic was the one-to-one. So I'm interested in getting that feedback from them.
hmm
That's going to be probably happening the beginning of the month. But I do want to backtrack a little bit to actually how we handed them out to the students because that
That's
was
right. Yep.
another big thing. What we did was we required 2 things. We had the acceptable use policy that we wanted them to sign, which I'm hoping we can switch to an opt-in
hmm
or opt-out policy as opposed to a please sign policy.
hmm
Then we have the video and this website with information on them that we wanted the parents all to view and review and fill out just a Google form. Nothing really secure in that one, just something that lets them know. They had some in-person meetings. I will say that if you're going to do this again, make sure you get those in-person meetings scheduled
Right.
ahead of time with good information. We had them in there. We actually planned one right after a booster club meeting, so we knew all the parents would be here. It would be like homecoming. They'd go watch the game, then they would come get the meeting, and they moved the homecoming game, but didn't move the informational meetings.
Right. That'll happen, though. That'll happen.
Our in-person meetings were very less attended than the the other ones, and those were the ones that we were trying to just explain more about this. Coming in for next year, we're certainly not going to have to do that for any external. We'll only be hitting the freshmen, and even that, we'll see how that works since a lot of the freshmen coming in will already have been doing this at the grade school level too.
Right. And I want to mention 2 things. One, BJ, if you could tell the listeners, what did you went for the lease option, but what was the amount of time that we were leasing and flipping these things as far as?
Yeah, we chose. That's a good thing to come back to. We chose a 2-year fair market value lease. So these things are going to be switching every 2 years. There are two types of leases. There's the fair market value and the $1 buyout or a buyout lease.
Mhm.
The fair market value, basically, you're paying for the loss of equity and you have to send them back. The buyout one, you actually pay for the entire cost of the device and you get to keep the device.
Mhm.
We have no reason to keep 500 Chromebooks if we have another 500 Chromebooks to give them to. We have no hand-me-down to these things. So
Right.
paying less and having a place to send them back to is certainly, well, it's going to be a crazy year, 2 years.
Well, it will, but the obsolescence we avoid, right? Because of the fact
Yeah.
that years we flip, and also, let's face it, high school kids can be really pretty tough on any kind of things they have and possess. They throw stuff in their book bags or their gym bags. So I think that was definitely a wise move on your part to make sure that we do the fair market two-year lease. I definitely wanted to make that mentioned, as well as we also just are concerned that before we went with the initiative, and I'm sure some viewers are probably going to be curious, BJ, is what about the insurance on the devices and the approach to take, and what they're probably going to wonder what's the cost.
Oh, yeah, that changed too during the summer from my last
Mhm.
podcast.
Right.
Because we had, and what we originally planned was the $30,
Mhm.
charging every student. And that actually that model didn't really work out at the grade school that well
Mhm.
because students broke it and then they didn't care. It's like, ooh, cool, I can do whatever I want.
Exactly.
Um, and then my principal really did not want, the parents paying anything up front. They wanted this is a tool provided to the school.
Right.
Here you go.
Mhm.
So we came up with an incident fee.
Mhm.
So if a student breaks a screen, we can fix them in-house, and that's a $25 per incident. Water damage, which oddly enough, we had one big rainstorm and 3 Chromebooks came in one day with water damage. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, these are not umbrellas.
Mhm.
But yeah, so and then those were incident fees, and we've come to the conclusion that it seems to be working out where the students we have the old lab is now a sign out lab. So if a student needs it for the day but can't take it home either because there is being repaired, they
Mhm.
can go to the library and sign one out. Uh, Seems to be working out where if we don't let them take home a device until they've paid,
Right.
uh, we seem to be getting paid.
Right.
And we've had the fee very minimal as possible. We just wanted this to be kind of we're not making money off of it. We're just saying, hey, take care of it. So low fees. We've given. We don't want them to be without it in the classroom, so they can go sign one out in the library.
Mhm.
And the only thing we're holding back is now taking it home, and that seems to be working out.
Sure.
Um,
Another thing is, just like the soda cola wars with Pepsi and Coke, we also have, I'm sure there's listeners out there that are like, well, we would prefer to use the iPad. And probably they might be wondering, BJ, well, why did you choose the Chromebook versus the iPad? And you as an IT manager had to make that decision. And obviously you have definitely had the experience to see it on both sides. Could you elaborate as to why you came to that decision?
Um, yeah, from a technical standpoint, I can very easily elaborate,
Hmm.
but I'm going to throw this one actually back to you.
Oh, I could chime in if you want to.
Educationally, between these two devices, because you've had to set up, manage, and try and help teachers with iPads since
Hmm.
we have several mobile labs of them,
Sure.
versus the Chromebook rollout. How has that been?
Well, you're laughing because I've had to manage the carts for the departments. I was the lucky recipient of that, and I'm sure any IT person out there or integrationist or both are probably going to understand what I'm about to say. And one of the most difficult things about managing lab carts, especially, is 25 to 30 all have to be updated individually with their iOS upgrades. That takes about 5 to 7 minutes. So I usually have 5 or 6 on the table while I'm trying to make them all work. And of course, after you do that too, we were individually putting on all the additional iPad requests, and the math department I think asked for 20, and I had put on 20 for 25 different iPads. From that standpoint, it's very, very arduous, time-consuming. Also, he wanted those iPads quickly, and I couldn't really turn them over as fast as I wanted to. BJ saw me pulling my hair out, and I don't have a lot left, but he was kind enough to say, you know, what we need to do here is to get management device software.
Yeah, we got them wrong. How about actually in the classroom?
Oh, in the classroom, as far as the difference,
The usage.
usage as far as Chromebook has been extensive because of all the online keyboarding that's necessary with, like, for special ed departments using System 44 and Scholastic applications, which makes it a breeze. Keyboarding on the iPad is very cumbersome, clumsy. You need to charge the keyboards. We don't have to worry about that anymore, so it's seamless. So I think it's more effective. Obviously, some subjects obviously work better with Chromebooks than maybe some others, but nonetheless, as far as testing, as far as curriculum, as far as management of the device, lids up, lids down, teachers being able to be in a classroom, they have a better way of monitoring than having them trying to monitor a flat device on their desk. Furthermore, you know, from BG's standpoint, he can manage from a console as far as what's going to be happening with certain devices. So he has a lot more control than what we have, because, of course, with the device of an iPad, they can sign out the names and put their names and passwords to something, and then they can, you know, download their own apps and play more games, where we have more control. And we'll briefly discuss it, I guess, of the tools of APAR that can manage people being on sites they shouldn't be, and we'll elaborate on it, I'm sure. But basically, the Chromebook is giving more control in the classroom as far as monitoring, testing, writing and collaboration and typing. And those things just can't be matched by the iPad. I do believe the iPad has its place in certain realms of education, particularly tactile for students in special ed, and maybe more filming and for art. But really, across the board, I think our decision to go with the Chromebook was a wise one.
Yeah, actually, I think the one that's using the iPads the most is probably science for their stop motion videos, which is good.
Right, it is.
But they are also the same department that is using the Chromebooks almost daily for the graphing and spreadsheets and data collection. And
yes, and there's several I can think of right now that are using it very extensively with their assignments and labs reports.
And you mentioned art. I mean, I was working with the art teacher yesterday. I have one of the courses that I actually taught for quite a while at the college level was graphic arts.
Mm-hmm.
So it was something near and dear to me, and I know graphic arts is normally this Mac intensive thing, so the first thought was by our art teachers, we need the iPads.
Sure.
We sat down and first of all, there's an app called Pixlr.
Mm-hmm.
Works great on the
Fantastic.
Chromebook.
Yep.
And very comparable to a light version of Photoshop, with layering and many different tools that you would and effects. So that actually gives a much more similar experience than what you would get on the iPad. Right. Not only that, but Photoshop has released a beta program, which we just sat down yesterday, filled out all the application to try and get in on it, where they're going to be running their full Photoshop app as a streaming web-based tool.
Sure.
So even that whole excuse of I need my Adobe Photoshop on Chromebook is just going out the water, because you will have it. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping we get into that program.
Well, and also the video capturing elements of the Chromebook. I mean, we can work with WeVideo, which is a super app that also works offline, has offline editing capability. It's being used with some teachers now as far as storytelling for English courses, and the band, the music section of our department, our school, is looking into using it for training videos on cleaning instruments. That's just come about in the last few days. So they're using that as a filming tool. Also, you can also use YouTube, obviously, to upload videos and edit with their editing tools. So really, you've got all that convenience in the device. That not only is it as far as image editing, you have video editing.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it a very effective tool.
Now, going around the classrooms, we have several. Well, we have several districts that really just don't have internet access. It's not even a money thing. It's just
Rural
not there.
Vermont. Yeah.
Rural Vermont. I've heard one or two people, kind of say it doesn't work offline, or some parents who say they need to buy their students saying they need to be on the internet. But I haven't really seen anybody really have trouble with not with the offline support.
Right.
Most of the time when I've gotten that, it's usually the student is trying to convince the parent to get internet so they can get on Facebook.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Not necessarily that they can't do their homework.
Exactly. I mean, because if they come, I've seen this, and as long as they come into school and the teacher deploys the assignment during their school hours, it'll be on their drive. So when they go home and go into their offline drive, it will be there to edit and work with, and will sync when they come back and log in. So provided that the teachers are getting the assignments out, and they are, that's not an excuse. And there might be a few exceptions that people have been, like the example you just cited, but there doesn't seem to be any problems with it right now.
Yeah. So have you had any teachers experience? Have you talked to any students who are using the offline support yet?
There's been a few that have experimented with it. I think the teachers are a little shy about doing it. I've talked to them about the capabilities. So I notified them of all this, and they are aware of it. And I think I'm going to get more data as the semester goes forward to the end of the year, that I'll be able to give you more of a firm assessment.
It's really hard because without internet access, yes, you can type, yes, you can create the presentation, maybe even edit some of the videos. But if you don't have the video to edit, if you don't have the access to the internet for the research, it becomes a little bit more mundane of writing. There needs to be a second element to that. So, do we have a solution? No. We live in rural Vermont. Is it becoming as much of a problem? Not so much. I think teachers are adapting. Teachers are learning. We're going to be having a lot more conversations.
Sure.
Around this.
Right, and also there is, like with Comcast, there are programs for people that maybe they think at the expense of having internet service. There are programs they can apply to that would have reduced amounts. If you apply, you could go as low as $9.99 a month. You have to apply online for it, but there's an option as far as saying, geez, I can't do it because I can't afford the internet. So it is out there.
Yeah, definitely. That's another thing. Rollout to the students. The way we actually chose to do this is we had a document of the paperwork, whether they signed the acceptable use policy and whether the parent went and did the online form. And the way we did it is actually 8th period. We went around, got all the students who have the paperwork, put them into boxes, put little name tags on this thing, and went around to the 8th period teachers and gave them all their Chromebooks as we were filling it out. Unfortunately, we said the launch date was going to be like Wednesday, and that was the first day that we started handing them out. We couldn't get to all the teachers in that first day, so by Thursday, and especially the last few who were on Friday, it was really getting antsy.
Right.
We were starting to get all the ones that we were still handing out to the 8th period classes as we were still getting students who were like, hey, where's mine?
Which was crossing, there was a couple incidences with BJ that I had where they came in, I issued the Chromebook, but then he'd already given it to the 8th period for the same student. That didn't happen that much, but it did happen a few times.
No, but definitely Google Docs and being able to all work off the same document really helped out. Because I mean, if for the most part, yeah, that helped out. That stopped in a few instances, but most of that got stopped because I looked and oh, he has a number.
Sure.
That means it was given out.
Um,
So it certainly
well,
was a
for
yeah.
the IT managers out there, BJ, they're probably wondering, okay, so you deployed these Chromebooks, you had the cases, you got the Chromebooks. How did you keep sense of the inventory, and what program did you use to label, tag, and keep organization of all of it?
What I did is I bought some asset tags with a unique number on it. Some metal ones. I forget the website.
Hmm.
And then we also bought the permanent markers, the silver ones, and wrote the number on them. The marker, the bag, the
Hmm.
Chromebook, the bag, and the case there.
Hmm.
The Chromebook, the bag, and the power adapter. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
Um, and it was kind of cool because what I did is when we were inventorying and setting them up this summer is I took the scanner out of our library, plugged it into a Chromebook out of anything, and had just a spreadsheet that I went through and I scanned the number I gave to the Chromebook and the serial number, which also has a barcode on it. So very quickly, it was able to get all of them in there. The sheet, and then what I did is off the unique number I gave to each student. It's 14, which is the year that we got them. Dash, 1 through 500,
Hmm.
and went to the student, and they each got that unique number, and hopefully when we hand them back, we'll get all 3 items with the same number.
Yeah, in a perfect world. Was there a Google program that you used for that, as far as using that, or was a manual
Google
process?
spreadsheet.
It was
Google
really.
spreadsheet,
Oh,
and
okay.
clicking in, and it worked out well.
Great. Yeah, it certainly did, because we didn't have any problems really with giving out the codes and tagging. Um,
And
Go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say the biggest hurdle was actually just getting the paperwork in,
Yes.
and that was partly our own fault because
Mhm.
we didn't get the attendance at the non-technical
Right.
version of our meeting that we were really hoping for. So as long as you can get to all the parents to tell them
Right.
the information,
Yeah.
and that was not.
Well, I think the lessons we learned is that an opt-out online completely would alleviate a lot of it, because when you're juggling paperwork on top of trying to get them to go online, it seemed that they came in and they had one thing done but not the other, and that kind of delayed the process.
Yeah, and the parent meeting. I mean, I think every school has to deal with parent meetings, and
Sure.
everyone has it. Ours just happened. It happened to fall through. It
Yeah.
basically is what happened. So I mean, but it's certainly many other places. Just getting that information out to the parents is a big thing. Not that we didn't get information out. I mean, the parents did see it. They had the videos. They had chances to collaborate. They called me up, especially for I mean, we did our rollout the first week, and I think it was about by the third week that we finally got it down to. We got the last. I think there's only 13 students in the school
Right.
right now who still were waiting, and that's out of 450.
That's a lot.
So
That's a lot.
that's a lot, and some of those have other reasons for not
Sure.
handing any paperwork that I've handed off to administration.
Well, and then there's also some students that did a VOTEC schooling that may not have needed it in their curriculums. I mean, we did kind of have to consider that. So there's exceptions, and also students that were special ed that couldn't use the Chromebook, and it was better tool was using the iPad.
Yeah.
So they couldn't use it. So that was another thing.
Yeah.
But as far as the staff and the teachers using it, I think it's wonderful. I think that by leading by example, when I see instructional aides that are on their going in there with students, they have their Chromebooks with them. I feel like they feel they're inclusive to the students learning even more so, and guiding them. So I think it was a great move.
Yeah, we had some extras left over because like you said, some of the staffer didn't take them. Some of the special ed students, and apparently we had a whole chunk of students who are enrolled at the school but are actually taking college classes and are not here, and also didn't take them. So we had enough to hand out to all the instructional aides, and have some spares over As for breakage, we're
I
what,
was
2 months
I was
away.
going there. I was going there. Go ahead.
Well, I'm sitting here looking, and let's see here. I'm gonna get it out in the video. So I, if you listen to this, here is the screen breakage we've had so far.
Mhm.
Um, we're coming at about, I think, just over one a week for screen breakage out of 500 devices, and at least one of these is a staff member, so they're not exempt either. Um, Another reason why I'm thankful we went to the Chromebooks, it takes less than 5 minutes to change one of these screens.
So, BJ,
Um,
how long would it take for an iPad, you think, on average?
oh man, I would put it at if you're really good at it, maybe a half
Mhm.
an hour, and that's with a hair dryer and possible breakage and just not funness.
Well, that and the fact I believe from memory that you and Connor have had a couple from a teacher slipping and falling on the ice outside in Vermont winter. That some were just so granular on the glass that there was no way to repair it at all. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it was. Yeah, I mean, just trying to get the glass shards out. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is not a. It's not a click in, click out type of it is. Where
Right.
Connor's gotten it down where he's sitting there talking to the guy. He's had the student who comes in with it broken, and if they've paid the incident fee, while he's talking to them, he switches it out and gives them back, and they just like, wait a minute, it's done.
Hmm.
It's that
Yeah.
type of thing.
You do see a little shock on the student's face because they think they're going to go through the DMV to give a good example of the weight and the process and and it isn't the case. Plus, we also have the loaners that we have in our iPad cart at the library, and what
Yeah.
we're going to have in another
So
location. So really, it's seamless. And I think teachers had, and you probably agree with me on this, BJ, is that a lot of teachers were saying, okay, so if they break it, they're not going to have anything. And that really wasn't the case in our scenario. I mean, we were able
no, I
to.
mean it took us. We got two breakages before we figured out what to do with the
Right.
breakage one.
And that happens.
But we finally got it out. So we have the mobile lab cart for sign outs for if they have dead batteries or if they have, um, or breakage or other things. So they can go in. I have a Chromebook actually on top with a form with a check in and check out.
Now, some of the IT managers are probably like, okay, well, I've had a lot of good luck with the iPad. What about the Chromebook as far as operational? When you got all these Chromebooks, did you have any defective issues or problems? You know,
Not much. I mean, like I said, yes, we are going through screen breakages, and Connor said once he hits 52, he's gonna play solitaire with them.
hmm
But in terms of, we've had a couple that the mouse wasn't working right, and one thing with Acer we've learned very quickly: if you need to do support to get a warranty item, go through the chat.
hmm
Do not call.
hmm
And we did go with the Worth App Group's insurance, so we can get some money back on everything we're doing. I don't think we're going to do that again next year. I think the upfront cost is not going to equal the cost I mean, we're paying just $50 a screen,
hmm
and the upfront cost on the insurance is like $30 a device. So $30 times 500.
hmm
Are we going to have 500 screen breakages? It just that means we have to have well over half break the screen.
hmm
We do have some water damage, which will cost more if we
hmm
weren't on the insurance. So we're going to look at that at the end and see whether it's was a good plan to go on or whether we should self-insure and just have a big repair budget.
Now, one of the things also we ran into, and you'll have more information for me than on this because you've dealt with it, but students that say, okay, well, listen, I like this one-to-one thing, but I want to bring in my own device. Why can't I bring my own device in? Why is that not the best of ideas, and if you could just elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, our policy is open, so they are allowed to. But we do have it down to they're not allowed to plug in the classroom. So there's no reason, if you bring in almost any Windows machine or even some Macs, they don't have the battery life to last all day.
hmm
So the student will die. And there was another student who brought it in because their parent was dead set on them having it. And she's like, it's this big, bulky computer. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
full-size computer. I don't want to carry this. I want the small, easy to
Portable. All right.
portable device, which the 11-inch Acer Chromebook was.
Right.
So I'm having a feeling we're going to have some issues around there. Plus, we had a student who was taking the SBAC. It was the map testing, the
Right.
NWA map testing,
Mhm.
and he couldn't connect to the test because, well, he was trying to use Internet Explorer or something like that. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
forget it. I took his thing, put it off to the side, grabbed him a Chromebook, and says, "Here, use this for the testing. Hand it back." And he was up and going. I mean, that's the key with these is that they are just up and going. The teacher's not fighting
Right.
maintaining the device. So the technology has been taken out of the mix so teachers can work on the curriculum. They're not waiting for devices to turn
Right.
on.
Well, and I think
Um,
there's a lot of misconceptions, BJ, as we both have from parents and teachers and even administrators, that okay, well, look, we know that the Chromebook's not the same as a laptop or a computer, um, so it's not effective. What can you give to the listeners that really, actually, it's very effective, and even if it has some discrepancies in the element of education, um, it's not a problem with Chromebook.
um,
Meaning that, for example, well, you can't download things with a Chromebook. That might be a misconception in the sense that, okay, well, it's not effective like a desktop computer or a laptop. It doesn't have all the capabilities, um, which really is, I think, in some ways, kind of a misconception. But I wanted just your feedback on that.
well, I think you said it right. It is a misconception because, like, once you start playing in the Chrome Web Store,
Hmm.
you find that many you might not be able to use the service you were using, but there are many alternatives, and some have more advantage, some have less advantage. And a big thing is because they're web-based and a lot of them are free, is that they become accessible to the student outside that program.
For the
Like,
listeners, for the listeners, could you clarify what the Chrome Web Store is?
it's basically a website you can go to, and it has either extensions that can be added or they call them apps. They're really not apps. What most of the times you click on them, they bring them to the website
Hmm.
of the device. Like Pixlr is, you can go in the web store and you can find it, and it can put a little icon on the desktop or on the start menu. But when you click it, it goes to app.pixlr.com or
Right.
pixlr.com/app, and it brings them right to the website. So it's nothing more than a link.
Hmm.
So it's not necessarily needed, but it's a great place to research and find information about these things.
That, and I think a lot of teachers are concerned that, well, we used to run this program and that program, and quite frankly, I've seen it in SPED and I've seen it in other departments, math, with Math 180. A lot of these programs and testing are going online cloud-based. So that's perfect for the Chromebook because obviously their operating system is Chrome, which is the browser. So they don't really need the traditional, we got to buy this, license this, get these programs. And I'm sure from your standpoint, would you like to add anything on that?
No, it makes it a little bit easier. Like if I do want to, like I'm gonna go back to the Pixlr app, I can
Hmm.
deploy that from the dashboard, and it goes to everybody
Hmm.
within 10 minutes.
Right.
I don't have to worry about whether they're plugged in. I don't have to worry about anything, and it's a link, so that even if they didn't have it, they can just go to it.
Right.
So it's very manageable for adding these things. It's a great resource for teachers to find these tools. Um, yes, they have to sometimes think outside the box of,
Right.
okay, well, this is how I've always been doing it. Well, look at your learning strategy. Let's find some other ones. I think WeVideo and video editing
Hmm.
is another great example of something that someone didn't think could be done on these that
Right.
you actually can, and has some really great capabilities.
Right. And I think your key strategy I've learned from you also is just how can we manage or change or alter the workflow with the apps to make what we need happen. And
Yeah.
it's becoming more and more of a reality because of all the free, that's right, free apps that we're able to access from the Chrome Web Store. In my experience, I think their apps are very effective and they're free from the get-go. You don't, unlike Apple, you don't get the light version that you have to pay more later, or you may have to get an app that you got to pay outright. Where if the teacher wants to have the whole class just download it to their account on their Chrome, they do. And
Yeah.
if you have to deploy it as an IT manager, you can.
All I can say is thank goodness we have an integration specialist.
Yes, you're very, very thankful, actually. Buy me lunch after this too.
Um,
Uh,
I'm gonna transition to one other thing. Is that we have oh shoot, 12. I have a meeting coming up.
well, we pretty much covered everything. I
Yeah,
think.
add-ons have been out, and email some fruit. Okay, so actually I gotta close up because I'm getting some pings from our boss here.
Okay.
So we'll cover some more later. Add-ons are out for forums, just to let everybody know. I have my new add-on, Choice Eliminator. Check it out. Andrew Stillman's thrown out some really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And Fred, do you want to say your goodbyes, and then I'll end with my.
Yeah, like I said, check the add-ons. We'll give you more progress reports as we move forward with EdListen. It's great to be back. It's great to be back with BJ, and take us out.
Hey, thank you very much, and never stop learning.